We're good? Looks like we're good. Well, welcome everybody to the March 8th, 2021 Town Council Communication Meeting. First line order of business is called order. So this meeting has been called to order. Item number 2 is the roll call. Tracy, could you please take the roll call?
Councilor Anderson?
Here.
Councilor Katarina?
Here.
Councilor Johnson?
Here. Thank you very much, Tracy. Item number 3, approval of the February 8th meeting minutes. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Tracy?
Councilor Anderson?
Yes.
Councilor Katarina?
Yes.
Councilor Johnson?
Yes. Thank you again, Tracy. Item number 4, the meat of the matter. This is a joint meeting with the Town Council and the BOE communications committees to see what we can do, how we can leverage things and work together on the budget communication for 2022. So as you see with us, we have the BOE communications committee. Thank you for joining. We have, I thought we had the superintendent, and are they just guests?
No, we have the assistant superintendent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They had a conflict. Yep.
You're up in my right hand corner. So, and Diane Neto is assistant superintendent. So the way I thought we'd start is that Liam and Allison have put together a strategy to communicate this year for the budget. And I thought Liam or Allison could go over that first.
Yeah. Before we jump into that, Leanne, did you have a question?
I did. I was wondering if you could promote Gabby. She is our student rep to communications and is in as an attendee.
Sure, I can do that.
Thanks.
She's coming in.
And I just wanted to introduce myself. I haven't met any of you on the school side yet, but I have I have heard about you and the collaboration, and it's nice to put a face to the name. But I'm Allison, and I've been doing communications with the town since the beginning of October, and have been a part of these communications committee meetings each month. So really trying to foster that collaboration with town council and what the town updates are as a whole. And this will be a great stepping stone to how we can further bridge that to the school side as well. But nice to meet all of you.
And I apologize for not introducing you, Allison. I thought everybody knew you. Everybody knows your work, that's for sure.
Right. So yeah, thanks, Ken, for the intro. I thought just to give you some context of what we put together to talk about this evening, I think that communications has often been characterized as a bit of an afterthought, and how conscious we are about engaging with the public through the budget process. And I think the whole the theory or the thought here is that we can do better. So I think we collectively thought it'd be helpful to have kind of that overview of both how our process is outlined from a meeting standpoint and how that aligns with some of the known communication vehicles we have. So that's I'll share my screen. That's sort of the first slide that I thought we could talk about, and then we'll get into some ideas we have about how to bolster communications and some of the storytelling components of the budget. So bear with me here. So, oh, nope, sorry, bear with me. Let me do here, present, there it is. Yeah. So is everyone, can everyone see this slide here?
Yes.
Oh, perfect.
So and again, Allison deserves all the credit for well, 90% of the credit goes to Allison on this. But any mistakes or oversights are of my doing. So we're going to go into the conversation with that. And I know Ken will appreciate that disclosure. So I think from just looking at what you characterize them as stages or themes, I think this is really how we see sort of the budget process. And so starting obviously in this month of March, right now in the background, on the municipal side, we're formulating budgets. Budgets have been submitted to the manager, and this is really the time for the manager to work through those budget submissions and make some initial adjustments to the budget prior to it going to council. So we really see this as setting the stage and creating context at this point of the process. So what that will include is a budget process overview for the community in terms of the outward communication, what that timeline looks like, introduce the budget portal. So again, that's another piece that we won't, we'll certainly touch on this evening, but that's actually due for a revamp, which Allison can talk to in a minute, working with Brian Butler. And also just frame some of the unique challenges for the FY22 budget that we have to encounter and overcome. Obviously, specifically on the municipal side, and again, I expect we'll hear from our school colleagues that they took some similar evasive measures through the FY21 budget process. But really the theme that we've discussed at the Finance Committee, and I think it's trickled into this committee, is the theme of the FY22 budget is restoration. And so we certainly want to provide the public with a framework and a context for how to view the budget when it gets rolled out. We'd see the second step of this process as being identifying needs and understanding impacts. So this is after the budget is presented, really, going through whether they're current needs, whether they're new needs, and really understanding the impacts of the budget process in terms of staffing, service, pieces like that. So again, we plan on highlighting the budget document, having some features with ties back to those links, so we really drive people to the budget portal and the document itself. Go over some high-level department budget overviews, highlight the capital plan, and certainly spell out any new initiatives that that the town has brought forward for the Finance Committee's consideration. And finally, the third part we characterize as focusing priorities and attaining consensus as being kind of the ultimate goal. So, obviously there will be a number of things that are presented. Who knows how many, maybe not a number, maybe a few things that will be presented that will be focused through the Finance Committee process, curtailed or revamped. And ultimately the goal is to have consensus and have a budget adopted. So that's kind of how we look at the three stages of the budget process. What you see here are the public communication opportunities. So we've organized, or again, I say it's the royal we, Allison has organized our opportunities here around the e-newsletter and the leader. And again, some of those are in the know, obviously Council Corner as well. And we have omitted, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, but I believe we've omitted opportunities that we've already earmarked some subjects for. Is that correct? Or are they in that as well?
No, this includes all of the opportunities where we designated we're going to have spots in the leader for in the know, even though we've already talked about some subjects already, but this includes those dates.
Okay. April 8th, again, I'd flagged on everyone's calendar. We are going to propose to do a special edition newsletter, all things budget. So we'll certainly have some feature articles in there. Again, talk about the resources available to the community and public. And so that's sort of the public communication opportunities. In addition to that, we obviously have the website, which is a valuable education tool. Obviously, that will be where the bulk of the detail is. And we have our social media, which again, Allison's cultivated a growing presence, and I think it's a real valuable piece. And we'll see, I think, some of our storytelling pieces featured not only in our print periodicals or print options, but also the social media components. So we've tried to map those opportunities with the Finance Committee's calendar and what's on their docket. So you'll see down below the Finance Committee and Town Council meetings pertaining to the budget. So you can kind of get a better idea of how those opportunities for communication and engagement align with the actual public meetings, and where there may be some strategic topics utilized there, because we know, for instance, on the 28th, they're going to be reviewing department budgets. Well, we'll have a better idea as we approach that deadline what departments are going to be featured, and so we may utilize some of our communication resources to highlight some of those initiatives or cost drivers. So, again, you'll see on the bottom here what our budget meeting important dates are, and just high level how we plan on keeping people informed and engaged. So that's, let me just move on to, we'll come back to this slide. The next one is a lot.
Can I chime in for 1 second? Just as a zoomed out approach of how we got to this point. The whole the whole purpose of this communications plan is we want the public to know that the budget process is underway, and hopefully as a takeaway from it, they learn a thing or two about what's happening that sticks with them, and or they engage in some way, either by participating in a meeting or adding public comment or somehow taking that next step of action. So we kind of took this as an opportunity to say, where is the public right now? Are they online? Are they in person? Are they reading the newspaper, the leader? And kind of came at it from that approach of trying to meet people where they already are, and doing it in a way that the information makes sense to them. Because right now, who's to say that everyone that we want to go on and see that 300+ page document on our website is actually going to make their way to the portal? So let's make it as easy as possible for them to do that, either by taking some chunks of information and simplifying it in a certain way that is relevant to them, or by providing them the links in as many opportunities as possible so that it drives them to the budget portal. So that's kind of the method here of hitting all of these types of target points with the e-newsletter and the leader, and making it spread across the full 90 days in a way that's kind of like spread out and not so condensed. I'll just leave it at that. If you want to go to the next slide.
Yeah. So just briefly, and again, we'll come back to this because this is the meat. So we just to put and this probably should have been at the front end, but the plan purpose is really to provide an education, in our opinion, provide education and promote public engagement in the municipal budgeting process. That's really the overall communication objective. And I think that while we sort of characterize the 3 stages of the budget process as we see it, again, that's really a process that's driven by the Finance Committee. We certainly will look to highlight a lot of the storytelling initiatives that we think will come with this year's budget. Again, a lot of those remain to be seen. So these are just some ideas of what we're going to be talking about. But we do have plans to do a kind of look back at 2020 from a budget perspective. So kind of highlighting and framing those challenges from FY21 that will need to be sort of addressed or dealt with or contended with in 22. Town council budget goals. So again, there's been a lot of discussion around both Finance Committee and Town Council goals. So I imagine that we'll certainly want to frame it in that way. And we're also talking about the sort of the education piece. So Municipal Budgeting 101. Last year there was I think a fairly successful or well-received series of videos that were done by town councilors that sort of talked about what is debt, what is net budget, some of those fundamental budgeting tools. So we see that as sort of a component of the foundational knowledge that we're looking to establish, and then add layers of what's unique about this year onto it. In April, again, I think it will be more targeted towards what are some of the new initiatives or the important things we'd like to highlight, whether they're cost drivers, again, or new. I expect that, and again, this is all with a grain of salt because the manager has not made any reductions, but in the event there's something that comes forward for a new initiative in the assessing department, there may be an article on making a case for in-house revals. It's something that, again, it's already been put out there to the council. Maybe there possibly, if there's a new request for staffing brought on by the series, the pace of development, perhaps there would be an article on that, again, highlighting the need or providing some education as to what's behind that. Again, whether it's approved by the Finance Committee or the Council is a different subject, but certainly providing the education and the context for those proposals. And again, as we go out, certainly there will be features on the FY22 budget. Once it's adopted by the Council, what it contains, what it means for taxpayers, and as far as mill rate and things like that. So again, there's a lot that will be built out, but because we're sort of so early in our process, we don't know what's going to make Tom's cut. We certainly don't know what's going to be considered by the Finance Committee. That's something that we're going to have to be flexible to. So that's what we've, in a nutshell, prepared for the committee to take in and provide feedback to. But this is really staff's plan for this budget process. And I know that, or expect that Councillor Johnson will have some comments as far as the perspective of staff and the perspective of elected officials, and where those two may align and where they don't. So,
very well done. I love it. Make sure to share this after the meeting, please.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen a timeline like this that's very detailed and has the dates and whatever. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we can watch the progress of the budget, look at the opportunities to communicate,
Mhm.
and basically plug and play.
Mm.
I like it. Gonna have to digest some of this.
Yeah, sorry, that's a lot to put on all of you at once, but I think it just goes to show that there's a lot of overlap here and just multiple tools for engagement with the public. I mean, at the bare minimum, everyone should have access to these links at the time
Yeah.
when they are approaching. So that's easy to put onto social media, and then just as frosting on top of that, it's developing that creative content that just makes it interesting for people to engage
Yeah.
with.
I think this is really fantastic. So thank you, Liam and Allison, for taking the time to put it together. The only question I have, and this is more probably for Ken and Jean Marie, but in the past, have we ever done any sort of roundtables or anything? I know with COVID, it's going to be hard to do those in person, but is that something that we would want to build into this at different key points where we would want to offer some sort of two-way communication and engagement? Because a lot of this is one way, except I guess maybe the council and the finance committee people can participate, but how are we going to allow for dialogue around the budget?
I'll speak right up. I was never a fan of the roundtables myself, because they tended to be dominated by the same people every time we did one. That's not to say that they weren't valuable. Perhaps we could do one or two events. Yeah, they'd probably have to be online still, even into April and May. But you know, people have they can speak up as public hearings. There's, you know, emails, there's whatever. So I don't have a problem with doing some sort of a roundtable forum. And as I'm talking, I'm remembering we used to have a budget forum, so to speak, in the high school auditorium, which I thought was, I don't know, we changed those and went to roundtables. Tom, can you help me out here?
Yeah, we've really tried everything, John. A great question. Jean Marie's correct. We used to do a single kind of marathon session budget forum. And I think collectively, after 2 or 3 years, the opinion was that it really wasn't productive. For the effort it took, it really wasn't producing results. And so we did pivot to more of these informal, more frequent, kind of smaller roundtables. And I think over time, and we did that for 3 or 4 years, have found that those, for other reasons, weren't terribly productive. We went so far as to used to do pre-budget. Superintendent and myself would convene different groups around town, and we tried all locations, hours of the day. We offered babysitting. We tried to do everything under our power to remove any barriers, but there really wasn't much participation. So we're not simply dismissing it. We've tried all that, and it just has not proven to be all that productive. But having said that, I think, you know, what you're suggesting, whether it's a forum, there are ample opportunities for the council and the Board of Education to kind of plug into this. And so, you know, what we're proposing here or showing you is not mutually exclusive of other efforts. I think there's other things that can plug into this, can dovetail with it. And I think we'll even be willing to give up some of these spots. But I think it's really important, and credit to staff for putting this together. We've never been kind of looking out over a 90-day period with kind of a start to finish comprehensive look at what's happening, what are the opportunities, and now it's about stepping up and meeting those opportunities where they are. So we would love for the council through its communications committee and the BOE to want to get involved in many different ways along this timeline.
Yeah, I think the reason why I think the town halls or a roundtable might be helpful, and maybe it's not those venues, but I'm just thinking more as we move along the timeline, we might learn things that become much more relevant to communicate through the e-newsletter or through the leader, that we might want to just like tweak some of the messaging or make sure that we're addressing relevant things that are coming up from the community. So I'm just trying to think of like, how do we capture that? And again, to Jean Marie's point, I think, or Tom, there's a lot of engagement that's happening on the bottom part of this, where people do have the opportunity to provide feedback. And I know we'll be getting emails. I guess it's just, is there value in having a council or a joint council BOE type roundtable? Maybe it's not, maybe it's more just a listening session to listen from the community versus like presenting to the community, but like, hey, from what you've learned so far, what are still some of your outstanding questions that we can gather and bring back and work on how we communicate some of those themes that we've heard.
Sure.
Just kind of brings.
I was just saying, John, the opportunity for that would be, you need to have the budget presented so there's something for people to see and react to at this point. And you need to ideally get that input before you take your final vote. So it's really, you're looking at April and the first week or two of May is sort of the window for that engagement.
And the other part of it is that the school budget belongs to the school. I mean, they're the ones who come up with the budget and the numbers within the budget. The town council can't interfere with that. We only have authority over the final line item, so to speak. And to be honest with you, the school board needs to be advocating for what they want in their budget until the town and the schools get together and decide on what the budget's going to be together. Does that make sense to people? Yep. So it's, I mean, I don't feel comfortable advocating for any school budget until it's passed the town council, to be honest with you, because I don't know what I'm advocating for. And you know, that's their thing to get done. And then I've got we've got the town council side of it. So
yeah, I would agree. I don't think any advocacy happens until after the council vote on the 19th of May. But again, to Tom's point, is there something the last week of April, first week of May, that's again, not advocacy, but again, gathering information to get us through to that final budget vote, that's of value. And again, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not sure if I think it's necessary or not, but just interested in people's feedback.
Well, I'll chime in on that. I think that's a good point, and I see an opportunity between May 5th and the 19th, right? Because the 19th is the adoption. We could possibly, just as an idea, have an open forum, not like last year. If you remember, we had a forum. I'm not quite sure how that went, but I do recall it. Just for public input or public comment, because by that time period, there should be no unknowns in the budget. And if we communicate correctly through this series of opportunities, I think any outstanding questions or comments should have solidified by that time period. Matter of fact, in our promotion through this grid of opportunity, if we can choose a date to do so, we will continuously refer to that date. You know, like let's say if it's May 12th, you know. Any thoughts on that? On the school side, please, you can speak right up. All right, we can come back to it because John, I agree, and I think May 12th would be the opportune time. Yes, Kristen.
I guess it depends what our involvement looks like. I think that we saw a little bit last year, and it's not the best example because of everything that was going on, but at a certain point in the timeline, I think we just don't have the same goals. The school board and the town council don't have the same goals. So as far as for advocacy, ours is going to look a little different. If it's just a fact, like answering questions for the community, yes, I think there are opportunities there, but does that make sense?
Right. What was the forum that we had last year? Do you remember? And you're right, it wasn't a good example because it was COVID, you know, and,
I don't remember.
but it was a question and answer, or was it a workshop? Tom, do you remember?
It was a roundtable.
Was it a roundtable?
Mm-hmm.
Did anyone go?
Yeah,
It was on-
April represented us.
But like from the community, was there?
Yes, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah, well, that's right. It was a roundtable. I felt like I got roundhoused after that one. That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So the online forum actually helped.
It
versus
did.
Yeah.
Granted, it was still the same core people, but there were more than some of the times that we've gone, and it's only been like 2 or 3. We had a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, it was a good turnout. And there were a couple hot issues in there because, of course, the COVID financing and whatnot. So it probably brought more people in. I mean, we don't have to decide right now. We could give it a little bit of thought. We do have some time, but if the, you know, I think it wouldn't be worth doing unless both groups want to do it together. And it would be like anything, a joint workshop. If some members don't want to participate, they don't. But I think if we did decide on a date, we could advertise that date through the whole series. So at the end of it, if anybody's paying attention and they have questions or comments, that will be an ideal opportunity for them to express it or ask.
I also wonder about what is that best fit time to do that work, because as we consider where the school is in our budget process, we would really want to get that feedback from folks like, wow, before we get to approval of second reading, right? So that early feedback is helpful for us as we're still in that fluid process of making change. And so I wonder if, you know, part of the way that we could communicate more jointly on this might even be with, you know, the town council's endorsement of posting when we're having our meetings so that people can come from the public and provide us with that input while we're still in that workshop process. Because I think sometimes the challenge is, you know, once a budget gets past second reading,
Right.
to then go backwards becomes
Right.
more difficult to do.
Right.
And I don't have an issue. I don't like saying, I'm just going to pick on your language. Endorsing. I mean, I know I'm being picky there. I mean, we wouldn't be endorsing, but we would certainly be encouraging people to
Yeah,
attend.
that was the wrong word. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. It's 4 o'clock or 4:15, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, we would be encouraging people, look, you want to know more about the school budget and have input, you need to get involved with the schools.
Right.
And their budget process early on. And this is when they're doing it. Boom, boom, boom.
Right. That's exactly it. Right. Because I think
Yeah.
what ends up happening is when we wait till those
Right.
two budgets are married together,
Yeah.
right? Or that the town council does, you know, get to that point of approval, it becomes really difficult to go backwards.
Right.
So it may make sense, Mr. Chair, for them to look at some of the communications where we're communicating, and if there's some way, because I'm sorry, Diane and fellow school board folks, do you guys have a column in the paper, or you have your own? I know you have a newsletter that goes out to parents.
We do.
Do you have anything that goes out to the general public?
We've only been, Allison has put our stuff into the town newsletter, which has been incredible. We are really
Yep.
appreciative of that, but that's really our only angle. We don't have a column at this point. I've reached out a couple of times to the leader. I just haven't heard back.
Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
I'll chime in. I did recently just ask, I was assuming that one of these leader dates would be, we hadn't said this yet, but one of the leader in the know articles I would like to designate for the Board of Ed. Or
Okay.
school
Right.
budget.
Oh, thank you.
And I reached out to the editor who I submit our in the know column to each week, and I asked if one of the weeks, and I had said May 7th, but maybe that doesn't work in your timeline now that I'm hearing that. But I asked if it could be that we submit 2 articles for one of those weeks, one being for the school and one being for the town. And she said she seemed to think that that would work. So maybe there's one of these weeks that, or one of the designated leader spots, April 23rd or May 7th, that would be fitting to do that for.
Allison, do the corner and the in the know, do they coincide the same day, same edition?
They do for May 7th. For April, I think we had designated, well, so I didn't ask you this, Ken, but isn't it the first week of every month? I put April 2nd for the next council corner. Is that right?
That sounds right.
So for the
April
town,
2nd. Yeah,
April 2nd, okay.
And the
But I
first-
reserved April 9th for being, I thought April 2nd was too close to the first reading. By the
Right.
time we'd have to submit it the week before. So I had put April 9th for that budget overview article that would come from the town, but April 2nd would be the council corner. So I don't know if you would want to do budget for that, knowing that it's the same week of March 31st.
Okay, let's just, so I think I understand you. To get the school closer to first reading, which would be April 7th, if we use the budget process overview in the council corner, is that what you're suggesting? On April 2nd.
Yes, but I mean, it's up to you on the council corner if that's what you want to do for yours.
Yeah,
Ken,
I would do that.
would it be okay for the board to take this back and determine a date and then come back and give you a
Sure.
couple of options?
I'll just chime in with that there's some of them, like April 9th, I think is important that the town have an overview article, and I wouldn't really want to change that date.
Okay,
Totally fair.
I
Yeah.
think the rest can be flexible. But yeah, this March 19th one, we have a topic in mind that's kind of a reflection on this past year and how that kind of dictates what's going to happen with the budget. And then April 9th is that overview one, but I think the rest we can be flexible on. And Ken takes ownership of the council corner column, and so maybe there is opportunity there for one of those slots.
Awesome. Thank you.
well, speaking, let's just seize on that moment for a minute. If you remember last year, the BOE and the council did a joint communication that went in the know on May 5th. We could, for April 2nd, use the corner to do a joint communication with the school schedule, if that works. Or we can work on the content of it. Leanne? Does that work?
Possibly. I'd really love to be able to go back and talk to communications
Okay.
about how we want to approach it. I just don't want to commit without
Okay.
having a conversation with the team.
No, understood.
A couple of key dates, like, for example, our first reading is going to be on March 18th. And then the public hearing on our budget is going to be on April 15th, right? So we really want to make sure that communication would happen somewhere in between those, right?
Has the school board reached out to the leader to ask about column space? It's not like they're full.
No,
I didn't say that.
getting them to respond is quite something.
Well, I have
That's
some
Leanne.
inside connection because I buy advertising with them. Of course, they love me because I spend money.
Right.
If you
Um,
could, that would be great.
Let
I
me
mentioned earlier
talk
I've
to-
tried and they're just not returning my calls.
let me talk to Frank, my buddy Frank.
Thank
See,
you.
I don't know if he can do it. He's a Scarborough citizen too, so he should be happy to help out, right? I'll talk to him. I'll call
Yeah,
him.
Beautiful,
I
thank
started
you.
with Frank.
Yeah.
Frank's
Okay.
good. Frank's good.
Yeah. Yeah, Frank's very good.
I think just going back to what Diane suggested about like where are there opportunities to cross promote in different venues and platforms based on dates, because Diane, you mentioned a couple of key dates. Like do we have a master calendar, or could we create a master calendar that just has all of this stuff so that one, we know, but then again, as Allison's working on stuff for e-newsletter or updates or social media posts, like we could have some of those key dates just as a call out. And then I don't know, Tom, if this is something you normally do, but maybe, and this could be something Sandy could do too, like at each meeting as part of your town manager update, maybe just again refreshing the community of like what's coming in the next 2 weeks, just to kind of again use that venue as another means to communicate opportunity for people to attend, to participate. Like I would say we could use counselor comments at the end, but I feel like that's at the end and people aren't there, but at the beginning they might be more likely to attend and listen, especially if they're going to attend something in that meeting. So that just might be another opportunity for us just to say, you know, FYI, there's a BOE first read tomorrow night if you're interested, FYI. So just to kind of make sure we're cross promoting and all these different opportunities, I think would be great.
And I'll chime in on the calendar component of it. So right now, as you all know, there's the budget portal that's accessible from our homepage right now. And on there is a calendar. And so Brian's our webmaster, and he's the one, and I believe it's for the school side too, but he's the one who updates that portal. And recently he's been working on getting it onto a new platform. So it's very much visually the same as our website. So it takes you to a new website, but it's going to look a lot like the town website. So in that process, he's kind of going through and making it more user friendly, and it's going to be just easier to use. But there is a calendar button, and right now it's pulling from the finance committee calendar. And I think there's opportunity there where instead of just populating it with finance committee meetings, that it can be more all-encompassing of anything budget related. So that's something that I can touch base with that, on his side, and it shouldn't be a problem to add school meetings to that.
Yeah, historically, we do have a master calendar that includes all the relevant dates, town and school alike, joint meetings. I'll make sure that that's available as well. I just don't want to lose sight of, I think it's great conversation to look for an opportunity to use some of the print media to advance the school budget discussion, if you will. But this whole notion of a joint or open forum, I guess, as you're probably not going to decide whether you do that tonight or what that might look like, but just some things to keep in mind. I think we should plan on it being virtual. So to the extent that that modifies how we do what we do, just that's maybe an opportunity, but it might be also a constraint. I do recommend that it be certainly past presentation, which effectively will be past first reading. I think it's okay to do it while the finance committee is still doing its work. So it's still very much open. It's good to get opportunity. But really ask yourself, do you expect that to be an interactive Q&A where questions are asked and answers are given? If so, you need to be very thoughtful about who you have from staff perspective that they can answer those questions. And then it starts to get a little more cumbersome when you, on the school side, you might need 12 people there, depending, to be prepared for the nature of questions that might come. And the same on my side. So just my only point is be thoughtful around how you want to organize that and who you need to be part of it in the virtual environment.
Yes, I was thinking, and again, just brainstorming, that it could just be more of like a listening session where we're just gathering information, and then maybe part of after listening is getting the right resources to kind of put together maybe an FAQ or some sort of written document of like, these were like the 10 things that came up consistently in this forum. And here's, you know, information, you know, places in the budget, whatever helps kind of direct people to the best answer. Like that could be a way to do it. Just again, to use it as an opportunity more to like gather some of that final feedback towards the end that can then hopefully help those people who have specific concerns or specific areas that we can kind of put the information out after the meeting of like, here's what we heard and here's kind of the best answers to those questions at this point.
That's certainly a way to do it. We've done voluminous FAQs in the past for both town and school. That's certainly a possibility. Yeah, if you do it as a listening session, it's a lot easier. And frankly, the virtual environment is probably the best way to generate maximum participation.
Just to educate me, what's a listening session?
I just made it up. You know, I'm just thinking like, again, it's more like, you know, allowing the public to just comment and the counselors and the school board or whoever are just there to kind of listen and capture the feedback and then close the loop back with them based on that information that came in, especially if we don't have all the answers on hand or if the answers can be complicated. I think it just gives us the opportunity to give people a voice and an opportunity to be heard in a organized manner. And then, you know, respond back to them concisely written so that they can, you know, get the answers they need.
Well, what you're talking about is what we do for public hearings.
Yeah.
Now with bills, I was going to say, yeah, I've been in LPC meeting today. With the budget, but yeah, I can see that people do get frustrated though when we don't answer them. They're like, well, why am I up here and you just sit here and look at me and you don't give me an answer? But that being said, if they understand that it's a way, you know, these are my concerns and this is what it is, and someone just says, yeah, thank you, we've got that, and then we'd have to figure out a way to get the answers back so that everyone hears it. But yeah, there may be a way to do it.
Yeah, I think if you do something that's less formal than a public hearing where you just simply sit there closed-lipped and it's more informal, more kind of conversational, to the extent you have answers, you give them. To those that you don't, you keep track of the questions. Never underestimate how simple a question might seem, but I assure you the answer is often very complicated.
Right.
And so just be mindful that that's a level of effort depending on the nature of the questions, particularly on the school side. Few things are very simple in that regard, whether it's, you know, extracurricular activities or sports or curriculum questions. There are complicated answers that have all sorts of impacts on the budget.
Well, look, to move forward though, but let me throw something out. I think what's working well now, I think Liam can speak to this, is the facility that we have that are tied to the 2 residential committees where the public can submit a question at any time to that committee. Would it be worth entertaining something similar? And again, through these streams of communication, be pushing them to the finance committee when they're reviewing the school budget, or the finance committee when they're reviewing the department budget, so forth and so on. Just a thought, instead of having, you know, as an alternative to a listening committee, because I'm not sure if we can get a listening dovetailed in to the needs of the school, like Diane had mentioned. They have a first reading. What were your dates again, Diane? You said March, is that correct?
March 18.
March 18th.
March 18th 's first read, and April 15th is the public hearing.
Sorry, I just noticed I was on mute. But yes, Liam is exactly right. He's a good note taker.
Yeah. So what do you want to do with this listening item? should, again, I know there's a lot of good information right in front of you, but I know if we don't make decisions now, this committee is not going to meet again until the 8th of April, which is a lot of lost opportunity.
I think, was that question to the BOE or was that?
Anybody that would like to answer?
Yeah, I liked your comment of doing it after May 5th, right? When things are closer to final. My question would just be like, does that give us enough time to turn something back around to the community?
John, just to share, our second reading is May 6th. So we would be locked and loaded at that point.
Right.
And that was a horrible phrase. But we would have our budget approved at that point.
Leanne, you said May 5th, second reading.
May 6th.
6th.
Gotcha.
The 6th.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So it would have to be before that. It would have to be in the April timeframe.
It would have to be in April, and I think would have to be careful on the date. I don't want to confuse it too much with our public hearing.
Any other ideas? Any other suggestions? Should we just move on? Should we?
Well,
think about it. I'm just trying to think of the loop in communicating back and making a decision, because again, we can always meet and, outside the normal monthly meeting.
Well, just to, Ken, I would just suggest to everyone, have some comfort that we've got an actual 90-day strategy here that's more comprehensive than ever, that I think has the proper messaging at the proper time. I think there's ample opportunity for all sorts of plug-in or dovetail into this. And so, we're going to execute largely with what you see here. There'll be some flexibility. We need to have it. But I don't think you need to make decisions right now. And I guess to our school colleagues, we expect that you'll be doing kind of some of your own work. I don't know if it's going to follow kind of these themes, if you will, and these timelines. But this is not, those two are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
We understand that.
I'm
would
also
just say,
open to changing the navigation of this slightly, as say we pick up on patterns of public comment or response, and you're hearing a lot of feedback going in a certain direction, or there's a lack of clarity around a certain topic. There's opportunity to plug that into the messaging as well. And it might not come through a specific virtual event, but if it's something that you're picking up on the pulse of parents in the school or emails to town council, that's something that you could bring to me, and I'm happy to incorporate that.
So my only comment, and I think Kristen, you made me think of it as it relates to like having a separate listening session. Like, I'm sure we already have many mechanisms that people can participate in. And I guess maybe just a simplified view of those opportunities holistically might be more than sufficient to actually address my thought of like gathering feedback. And to Allison's point, as those build throughout this 3-month plan, I think we just build that FAQ from those different public hearing forums that are happening, and maybe just use that instead of like having to have something in addition, because I think to your point, that could just confuse the public of like, well, which one of these hearings should I go to? Which meeting should I go to? So again, I think just keeping it simple and just being aligned on like making sure the public understands, if you want to say something in a public forum, these are all of your opportunities, and these are the things that are going to be discussed there, that if you have an opinion on any of these, feel free to come and participate. In addition to, Ken, to your point, if they want to submit a question outside of that, we can set up a forum. So again, it's really just about making sure people are directed to know when those opportunities are. And if we feel like collectively what we have already is sufficient, then I don't think we need anything in addition. I think we can just, again,
Well,
keep it simple.
John, what we can do, we should do is down the bottom left-hand corner of this slide, we should layer in the important school dates. Because all of those are, so by my count, you'll have double-digit opportunities over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. All public meetings, all take public comment. That alone is, each represents an opportunity for folks to express their opinions.
Yeah, and I think as a school district, I think the place that we've struggled the most is figuring out how to access the general community. We have like this ready-made access for all of our parents,
Right.
but we absolutely realize that, this community extends, much further beyond just the parents that we have in our schools.
Well, Liam, let me ask you to create a little portal similar to the residential committees. Is that a big effort? Is that something we can get IT to turn around? Because again, I think in all these opportunities to communicate, we mentioned the public hearings, we mentioned some key dates, but we also push them to that portal to submit a question. And we can just continuously gather those and answer them in one of the forums down on the below.
Yeah.
Consolidated.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't want to speak for Brian, but to his credit, he makes it look awfully easy. So I'm not, I think it's probably not too difficult of a lift.
What do you think, Tom? Do you think that, in your experience, do you think that would add value? Because I'm not sure what the level of participation has been in the public with the residential committees. However, this is budget.
Yeah, not tremendous so far, but they're just starting to work. We need to be clear what the expectation is. So someone poses the question, when and how are they going to get their answer? Is it an ongoing rolling RFQ that we build and make available and add to as questions come in? Is there an appointed date and time where all the information is provided? I would tend to say if we're going to do that, it probably ought to be through a written RFQ. FAQ, excuse me, where we just kind of build this document that captures all questions and all answers over time.
Right. We can have a disclaimer on the portal telling people how they'll get their answer or when to get their answer. I think it's something that we should explore.
Yeah, like updates will be posted weekly or something like that, or at least weekly, if not sooner.
So I think perhaps, and again, I guess I need to give this some more thought and rely on Allison and the committee to structure this, but certainly we can have something that highlights, again, those public engagement opportunities, whether that's written form and where we can expect questions, what the expectations are. We certainly can also set up that form to check, is your question a general budget question, is it a school budget question, is it a municipal budget question, and it can actually be channeled to, I expect, different distribution lists. So again, that will require some collaboration. In terms of action items moving forward, and I don't think I'm getting ahead of myself by just revisiting the questions on the table. I certainly think the April 8th e-newsletter edition, in terms of Diane's comment about having a broader reach to the general community, I think that's really a huge opportunity to collaborate on budget messaging and communication between the town and school. And then, if I understand correctly, one of the questions that Leanne's going to bring back is, would the opportunities identified on this slide, or maybe we need to request an exception, but where does the BOE want to have an op-ed in the leader, or whatever that forum is or format is, whether it's an op-ed or education. So I guess that's, from my standpoint, that's where, but in terms of the form, I think that's pretty easy. I can work with Brian and Allison to get that going.
So I'm interested to hear from some of the other BOE members that maybe, because I know we've been doing a lot of the talking. So Shannon, Kristen, Leanne, is there anything else you guys might want to add, or any other thoughts?
I think I would wonder what, so when you talk about a joint communication going out in e-newsletter on the 8th, is that something that Allison would write? This is like foreign to us typically write our own stuff. And I guess in there, like, what other message would you have in there besides dates? Like, I would like to see something in there about the town council finance committee goals and what they've tasked the departments in the school to do for first reading. I think we get a lot of confusion about first reading expectations.
So,
First reading is the 7th. Again, we have a leader on the 2nd. I shared with Leanne the joint one we did last year.
Yep.
I mean, of course, the topic would be different, but you can see the context and the flow of how it was done. I mean, there's an opportunity to do at least one share, I think, in the leader for Counselor Corner. So
Would you be looking to us to help write that, or is that
yes,
something?
it's definitely from both perspectives. I suggest, Leanne, if you can, if you would share with the other members on it, we get back, we can go back and forth with email, copy everybody that needs to be copied on, just say, yeah, we want to agree, and then who would want to participate? Okay. Wouldn't necessarily be me, might be like a John Clucci or something, but we'll figure all that out. I think it's a good opportunity. It dovetails well with, what was your April date? I've got your second reading is May 2nd. So this would be April 2nd, which is before the first reading. So it could be a good setup, a good tee up moment. Give it some thought and get back if you want.
I
And
can
then-
speak to the April 8th standalone e-newsletter. So the reason we didn't want it to interfere with, we're going to keep going with the 1st and the 15th being the standard town e-news, and this will be a
Yes.
special edition on the 8th, because there is opportunity to use the content that we'll be developing in March. It's going to be very overview, like here's an intro to the budget portal, how to use it, what you'll find there, the purpose of the public as a user going on there, draw attention to the budget document, which will be published by that point, and maybe a recording on YouTube of the meeting that happened, the presentation. So very overview like that, but because it's standalone, there's a lot of opportunity for the school to contribute also. So I haven't put thought to what those topics are, but that's something that we have a month to work on together. And I do see that as being collaborative, where I'm not writing it, but I'm putting the pieces together, and I'll be adding some content that will be developed in March to that. So it's not necessarily making up new information just for that. It's just recycling content that's already out there. So that would be a good opportunity for the school to get your information into the subscribers that are town residents and not necessarily school parents.
And if I could add in there, I think one thing that's missing frequently from the school communication side is the why, the big why. Why do you have the number that you have? Why are you asking for what you're asking for? And start that conversation, because by the time you get, past your readings and have done a number, you have, it's kind of late to communicate with the people that we have, who, it doesn't matter what we tell them, they don't like our budget. So, I mean, that is what it is. But that being said, to start early and looking at where are the potential places that those folks are going to be like, no way. So it's like, how do you address that up front? It's sort of like campaigning. Why should they vote for you? Why should they vote for this school budget? And I think there's an opportunity there. And as I said, I will call Frank Curran and just find out what the deal is. I can imagine what he's going to say. He's going to say, well, we need to sell advertising space, because that's what they do. But I can see if I can wrangle some more column space out of him, because I'm just surprised the school board doesn't have something that they can do, even if it's only once a month or some regular something. So anyway.
Anybody else lose the meeting?
No, I'm still here.
Lose the meeting?
we lose the
What?
shared screen.
Yeah, I've lost everything.
You
I-
don't see any of us?
I stopped sharing. Do you have the gallery view?
I've got nothing,
Uh-oh.
but that's all right.
We can hear you. I can see you.
You're looking good, Ken. Nice
All
showing.
right, well, I had a question for Allison based on what you just said.
Yes, I'm
So
here.
the mechanism, like you said, there'd be an opportunity for the school messaging on the school website platform. Would there be just like a link from your article to push to the school side? Is that what you were thinking?
The email newsletter will have opportunity, same with how our normal email newsletters have some school articles in there, but this one I see as having some more school content, kind of like 50/50.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So contain it right in the e-newsletter itself.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But
Well,
they're
maybe-
welcome to add links to the full articles or to something on the website that they'd like to drive traffic to, or a calendar or a graphic that has the list of all of the meetings. So we can work on that. But with that in mind, who is the best contact person of all of you on the school side that I would be working with on that, just so I can follow up?
I see
I think I
Diane
have
drawing that
a
short
question.
straw.
I don't see any hands raised.
That's fine. I mean, I think between Leanne and I, we can. Leanne, what were you going to say?
No, that was, it looks like you drew the short straw.
Leanne,
I don't want to create more work for all of you either. I'm happy to, I mean, I can, at the very least, have dates from the school side too, and anything that would be on the website or some part of the budget document. But I don't want you to feel like you have to write a bunch of articles for it.
But really to Kristen's point earlier, which is you have great support, great access to your parents and your supporters. What you don't necessarily have good access or direct access to is the general public. And, you know, I'm not professing that we have, ours is a different mailing list, right? So I think it's an opportunity lost for you not to take advantage of that. The other advantage is I won't say there's unlimited space, but I think we have the opportunity to shrink or expand that just because of the platform it's on.
Yeah, good point.
What is your deadline for that, Allison?
Well, I will be reaching out for the next couple regular e-newsletters, but that one will probably be just a week before. I mean, we can touch base, but
It's always what, the 1st and the 15th, right?
yeah, and then this special edition one will be the 8th, so the
8th.
week in between those two. Yep.
And I know I always take that newsletter link, whatever, and spread it on my council Facebook page and my personal Facebook page. So I think the more people do that too, it gets it out there into the community. So
As a side note, the chairs of the Finance Committee, that's John Clucci and Sarah, they're doing a joint video shortly after the first reading, similar to, I think it must have been Sarah and our old friend that I've just forgotten his name, Peter. Oh my God. They did last year. So, and if you recall, remember COVID disrupted everything. Because we started, when we had our joint meeting last year, we were going to do videos on terms, budget terms. Just again, you know, we talk about it all the time. The average person sometimes doesn't understand what we're talking about. So folks stepped up and did individual videos on terms. We're going to resurrect those this year because they don't change over time. BOE didn't engage with that last year because of what happened. So give it some thought if you would like to. I'm sure we have a list of unvideoed terms. And Tom, question to you. I know this was done last year. I just don't know how it was done. We get those videos also on cable. And they were in a loop. And by the way, does everybody know that we're back on channel 3? Not channel 1302. But how do we do that? Because it was done last year. Well, we can investigate.
Produce the video, we'll make it happen. How's that?
Okay. Yeah, because then I think every day at a certain time period, we had looping videos, and I do believe it was the chair, finance, and these terms. I mean, you'd only want to watch it once, but that's another thing that we can use these opportunities to communicate, to push the people to go view. Anybody could sit down and hit channel 3, right? Or 1302.
Well, that's an audience that probably isn't consuming things other than the leader.
Correct.
So, do you mind us going back a couple of years? I mean, that practice of glossary terms has been around for a while. It would involve some prior elected officials. That might be a point of confusion, but I was just trying to use content that already exists, that is timeless.
Yeah. Well, we could reach out to the prior elected officials, make sure they're okay with it.
They might need a royalty paid or something.
So anyway, that's something else that we'll be doing. So are there any comments, questions? Where do people feel they just need to step back and review the presentation that was done to get your bearings on what date is what? And then I think you've heard from Allison. She'll work with you on the news based on whatever the protocol is or the process is. Liam will keep all that in line. We could do, remember on the, whatever that date was for the leader, we could do a joint if you want. So review what we did last year. If you want to do it, somebody just send me an email. We can get in, we'll get that done. I do believe that's going to be in by March 26th.
What we could do once we identify those handful of dates where there's collaboration or an outright opportunity for BOE to take a date is to color code or somehow indicate on this timeline which are those dates. And Liam and Allison, I'd ask that we do flesh out the important budget meetings, important dates to include the school dates as well. So we have a good running list. And then
like you said, that's the master calendar, right, Tom? And that will be on the budget portal or somewhere easily.
Yeah, actually, Kate Bolton's the one that typically does it. I'll work with her, but it's like a 90 or 100-day calendar that shows all the important dates and color coded. It's pretty helpful to navigate.
Yeah. So is everybody good? Questions, concerns? You understand what we're trying to do? All right.
Great. Ken, thank you very much for including us. It's really appreciative to have the opportunity to collaborate a bit with the council on this. Huge thanks, Liam and Allison, for that timeline. I think that's incredibly helpful to see it from the perspective of the town. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
and we'll get back with a date.
Yeah, I like the theme this year too of the communication. It's restoration, because I think everybody understands last year what had to be done, and I like that theme. Okay, well, we're going to move on to another item. You folks can hang out if you want, or you can drop, but we're going to talk about, what is that, Allison? What's that?
Pulse surveys.
Pulse surveys, yeah.
That's right.
I have the agenda on another laptop.
Oh,
Thank you all.
It keeps dropping.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Got another little tidbit. This won't take long because I did promise you this one would be a short one. Thank you. I really sense that was a lot of information for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think it was so well done, it took people back. It did me. I went, wow.
I know. I feel bad that we didn't. I feel bad we didn't send it to you ahead of time. It was kind of like
this is
back to the wire on that one.
This is Jean Marie's goal. Meet every 90 days. I mean, right there, you did it.
Let's
I know.
go.
Well, I just to add to that though, like Ken, to your point, like if we have that level of planning, maybe not that much detail for each initiative, but
Mhm.
to
Right.
me, I think that's a really good
Oh, it's
use of
perfect.
this committee to have Allison bring some of those things, and then we can just tailor
That's
and say,
right.
well, what about
Yeah,
this?
we
What about
adjust
that?
it. And it's
Right.
going to be so helpful going into next year too, I think, to just have
Yes.
that to
Oh,
refer to.
fantastic job,
Yeah.
really, both of you. Hats off.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a little item. I'm gonna tee it up as a term, but then Allison's gonna step in and correct me. Okay. Because there's a facility that we have, and I do believe just in Google, the Google that we have, it allows you to go out with a single question
Yes.
and receive back up to what, 10? I think you can subset the question on the form
Mm-hmm.
and subset it down to about level 10. But it's and answer something. So we thought just conceptually, okay, to explore that as an opportunity initially just on the e-news to explore it. I like the e-news to be the proving ground, the concept, the POC type thing, and give it some thought, see how it works. So Allison, yep, go
Are
ahead.
you talking about Google polling?
No.
Kind
No?
of.
Okay.
Well, no,
Kind of.
but so this came about mostly talking about the email newsletter. So on our email platform, Constant Contact, there's the opportunity to add a poll. So I just drag that section in, and I could drag it in after any article, and I write out what the question is, and it can just be yes or no, or I can type out what each of the answers is if it's more custom than that. And Ken was saying it's up to 10 answers, but I could drag an endless number of questions, and I don't think we would do that. I think in this case, it would be having just one question, yes or no, unsure, or something like that at the end of an article, just to kind of, as a feeler, how many people respond to this and what's the reaction.
I have to can I tell you a quick story? I'm sorry. I have to chuckle because it has to do with this and with Ken. I got a phone call today from a constituent who was commenting on your column in the Counselor Corner about growth.
Right.
And she said, well, he asked at the end, yes, no, whatever. She goes, and I didn't see any place to do a poll.
Oh,
That's when you call the leader. You call the leader up.
So anyway.
No, and I understood that, but I've received a few calls, a few emails. So I said, no, it was just to get you thinking. That's all. It was just to get you thinking. But think of the possibilities on something like this. I mean, that's a simple question, right? And we know it's got a limited audience. So by the way, our numbers are up to 2,200 now, which is fantabulous. So we know that's a limited scope, but these are people that have actually intentionally opted in to receive this information. So that's why I think it's the perfect proving ground. If we know we have 2,200 and we do this once or twice on, kind of benign questions, but important questions, and we only get 1 or 2% return, then we know maybe we don't need to pursue this too deeply. But if the opposite is true, which I'm hoping it is, because I'll promote the heck out of it, we can then port it out of e-news. It may be a stable thing on the website. I mean, we have so many things that are coming through, and the demographics in this town have changed so much since our last big survey. It's important for us to know. So didn't mean to cut you off, Allison. Did you have something you were going to show us or just tell us, or?
I don't have anything to show this time.
We can have that as a next agenda item.
That would be great. I mean, I was so budget focused this time, but I think it would be really good to have it on the next agenda to show it in Constant Contact, but also kind of like a Survey Monkey style survey that could live on the website as another option, like you were saying, that has maybe like a bit more built out than just like a quick poll on the email newsletter, and that could go to people who aren't just subscribers. But to your point, there are just so many rotating topics that it would be good to kind of feel like there's a two-way street there of public engagement. But I think next time would be good. I can have some samples to show, and we could kind of brainstorm some ways that we could use it or types of questions that we could ask.
Okay, so we'll put that on as an agenda item. And then another little agenda item is, remember, and I'm gonna pull a Jean Marie right now. I've been so busy at work that I just haven't had the time to do the things that I really want to do, just the things I have to do. So remember, we were going to create a non-action item just to get a discussion on the survey. So that should be fairly simple, but I want it, I want it formalized. So let's create that action item at the next agenda, and then it will go to, we'll push it when we see a light agenda on the council, which might not be for a little while, but just to get that, and then we can talk about next steps on that item. Okay. So that's 2 agenda items. It's keeping it light. Something else might come up between now and then, but coming up light. So just as general feedback for this meeting, again, great display. Do you think we'll get some engagement here with the BOE? They're going to step back and look at it. I'm hoping so, because I know they want to. So
I think it might take some follow-up,
right.
maybe some reminders, and sending out those dates is just like a next step. But it sounds like they've been wanting that a lot. And so to be able to show that the door is open for them to do so,
Right.
I think is the most important.
Right. Yeah, because I've always been confused on the boundaries between, even though we're one town, there are some boundaries here. So that's why Liam's a traffic cop, but everything I think that was suggested must have passed muster because he didn't speak up. So that's good.
Well, that's why I made the comments I made too, because there does tend, I didn't want people from the Board of Education to think that we were going to be endorsing anything that they're bringing up. I may think it's awesome and great individually, but the thing that I thought was really interesting was obviously the Board of Education works very differently than we do on the council. It's almost like they don't dare speak up unless they've already run it by everybody. I don't know. But that being said, I think they were just blown away. To be honest with you, that's why they were like, "Oh, whoa, we got to look at what the council's got going."
Right.
And I don't know, I would absolutely support if they wanted to hire someone to come in to do communications for them. I'm surprised they don't have somebody doing that, just because of the nature of those boards of education. There's so much communicating that's going on all the time between them and parents and and that, that it's like. But that being said, and I will talk to Mr. Curran, just so I'll know, what does the leader, what are they giving us right now? I know Thurlow had his column, but is that what we're in on now, is Thurlow's space?
Yeah, I work with him on navigating that, but he's been really receptive of me kind of picking out dates that I want to fill in, and then but he has certain ones in mind, and so I let him have it because it's
But the counselor's corner,
that's
is that
different, and that's just a once a month.
Okay, but we do, because where I'm going with this is negotiating with them to get them to see the value to allowing the school board, because I can see them saying, well, the school board could come in on whatever we call Thurlow space. Or you guys have your counselor's corner, why don't you give it up? Because they do want, what their whole thing is to sell advertising space. But if I can convince them that, they don't have to give up that much column, but if it's only even just once a month.
I was going to say
for
once
the
a month,
BOA.
same as council corner.
Yeah, I tell you, they actually offered us once a week. And
interesting.
yeah, and thank goodness we had Eric Conrad from Maine Municipal come down. And he goes, no, you don't want to do. And I'm glad we listened to him, because it's a struggle to get it once a month, right?
Yeah, Eric knows his stuff for sure. But I'll see what I can do to at least I'll do some initial chatting with Frank and then getting them hooked up with someone at BOE, probably Diane, just to see what they can get, because that's crazy. They don't have something in the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by one comment for John, I don't recall Tom reacting to your suggested update on his manager report.
I'm just
However,
brainstorming, throwing it out there.
I know, right? Real-time brainstorm.
Yeah, there you
However,
go.
You remember, you are the liaison for the BOE, so it's perfectly fine for you to mention that whether you're giving an update or not, you know. I
Yeah.
suggest to do that, yeah.
Mhm.
So, okay. Again, I can't thank you enough, both Liam and Allison.
Yeah,
But it goes to Alice.
fabulous.
She did
Yeah.
98% of the work. I downplayed it with the rest of the group. It said only 90, but
Yeah.
it was closer to 90.
Right.
I'm telling you, we got a gem here. We got a, user.
Speaking of which, though, because Allison, I would, in this next 30 days, I think we've got 3 articles in the leader and we've got 6 council corners.
Yeah.
Again, would like to leverage what you're thinking on those days, okay, to either, support it or come at it from a different perspective or something. So I don't know how,
Okay.
how you can let us know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Before-
I mean, I already have some more like behind the scenes of my document built out of like what the content will be. It'll be so much easier once the presentation has been made and then I can really reference the document. But yes, that's a good point. You and I can work on that too as you
Okay.
kind of facilitate out.
Yeah, let me know when you feel comfortable with your framework and what your thoughts are, and then
Okay.
we can, 3 of us can Zoom or something, just so I
Yeah,
know
that'd be great.
because again,
I have a-
go ahead, John.
I have a question/comment. So, clearly the budget is going to take the forefront for the next 3 months. But we also have some pretty big things, I think, also happening in the next 3 months too that need to be communicated. The comp plan, the GMO, the 2 subcommittees. Like, how do we integrate that into this so that we don't lose sight? Or maybe not integrate, but more like, because we have so much good stuff to communicate,
Right.
how do we make sure we're not communicating too many other things in addition to those? Because again, I just feel like comp plan, I feel like maybe is not as much communication potentially. I think the GMO, based on what we've been seeing lately, and maybe that's just a short-term thing, is going to require some communication.
But you're right.
But yeah, that's my thing.
Can't be
It's like
budget all budget. No.
Yeah.
And again, I think from our perspective, because remember, we're supposed to be communicating, not supposed to be, but it's the mindset for the council communication is from a council perspective, right? So it shouldn't be all the time. I'm going to defer to Allison because I know what she does on the content, and I know now with the budget portal being updated, it's just when the opportunity arises to communicate and drive to the portal, because maybe the portal is the story, right? For the folks that want to know. But I agree with you. There are definitely other things that will that we need to communicate on. Speaking of which, your Betsy Gleistein is doing a charter review e-news on the 15th.
Yep.
Can I review it?
You can reach out to her. So possibly somebody on the downtown should think about doing one for the 1st, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we should give that some thought because I mean, it depends too on what you want the council message to be for the budget. Because I guess when you're thinking of what the content would be from the council side, just know that every single e-newsletter is going to have a budget topic from the town side. So don't feel like you need to repeat that message if it's already there. But if you have a council perspective that you'd like, then that's the opportunity to do so.
It could be the leader might be the budget. Because again, the leader, again, I love the way Tom Tom puts it perfectly. Well, yeah, it's the demographic and the leader.
Yeah,
And guess
true.
what? That's me and about 25% of the rest of the population. I still hold fast to the leader. It goes to 10,000 homes in the town of Scarborough,
Yeah.
period. Sooner or later, people understand that there's information in there for them to use. So we could actually leverage more of the leader on the budget, and the timing on those are actually pretty good. And if you heard with the BOE, the collaborative one should be the next leader. If they want to do that, maybe they don't want to do that. So, but to your point, John, that still gives 2 opportunities a month to be communicating about other council business. So like you said, is also very important, especially, the comp plan's coming close, very close with the GMO. So there's some opportunity there. So. All right, any, I can see. Okay.
Just so you'll know, I got, WGME reached out to me today. They wanted to do an interview on fireworks, and I told them I was too busy to do one. Because it's like, why do we need to make that a big to-do on WGME? So I just gave them, hey, look, I want to ban them in the whole town. The council doesn't seem to share my opinion, so we're working on some sort of a compromise. But you should know, they reached out to me.
Oh, you did talk to them?
I know, I sent her an
Oh.
email. No, I know when to talk to these people and when not to, okay?
I
So I
forwarded
was,
that to John, coaching.
what's
Yeah.
that?
Well, they called me.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, my spouse got the call.
About what?
They wanted an interview
On the fireworks?
on the fireworks. I said,
Oh, so they went from me to, yeah, no, all you gotta do is, if you get something like that, because they originally were looking for me and I was working, I was out with clients, I'm not, and it's like, anyway, just give me a
Yeah.
heads up, just letting you know.
I'm not touching that one. Okay, so I think we've got 2 future agenda items. Something else might be cropped up that you guys will know well in advance. So item number 8 is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Counselor Anderson,
yes.
Counselor Katarina,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson.
Yes. And again, great job. Please, you're going to send that out to the committee members, right?
Yeah, we should add the school dates onto that.
Oh, okay.
Send it out.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
good.
cool.
Again, thank you again very much.